you guys doing? Welcome back to Country Mash. I hope you guys have been awesome, and today we're going over a reticle specifically designed for hunting. So the purpose of this video is for everyone who has messaged me over at Facebook and Instagram asking me about hunting. They ask if I hunt, what my hunting gear is or would be, and just the quick of it is I actually have not gotten into medium to big game hunting yet, but and I say yet, I do want to. So this is actually going to be something when I do go on my first hunting trip for either a deer or an elk. I will use this exact scope and this package. I'll go over this a little bit later in the video for those who are curious, but some people ask about, which scope do I need, or will the HUD DMR reticle work, or should I get like a grid reticle with mils or MOA, or all these questions. And so Primary Arms does have a hunting specific reticle. It's not talked about as much as some of the other reticles. However, there are some really good videos on YouTube already, but I just wanted to add just a little bit more because I know a lot of you guys like my instructional videos on these reticles, and you guys really like the examples I go through. So this reticle is called the ACSS Orion Reticle, and it can range the distance of different size game. It will give you the holdovers to make those shots. It has wind holds, so you can take those shots on windy days. And it even has mil dots in the reticle for anyone who still likes to do math, or for those who feel the need to be unique and use a Wildcat cartridge for hunting. So we're going to go over the features of the reticle, and then I'll show you guys how to use it, and then we'll go over some examples to get you guys more comfortable with it if you guys choose to buy the ACSS Orion. So let's kick it off by talking about some of those features. So the first thing you guys will probably notice is that it looks like a very, very, very simplified version of the HUD DMR reticle. And in a way, it kind of is. You guys will see the bold horseshoe around a chevron, which we already know the bold horseshoe is good for quick target acquisition. If you were to have some game pop up on you within close range and you have to take a fast shot, that bold horseshoe will draw your eye in fast. That way you're able to get on target fast. And then obviously the chevron in the middle, I think I've probably said it enough times, we all know is the most precise aiming point you can have. Below that, you guys will see the bullet drop compensators, which are your holds out to different distances, out to 600 yards. The little dots that you see out to the sides of the holdovers are going to be your wind holds. And I really like that they incorporated 2.5 mile per hour wind holds, 5 mile an hour wind holds, and 10 mile an hour wind holds. And then of course the mils that were incorporated into this reticle, and you also have some mil references using the horseshoe. So from the very center of the reticle to the inner corner of the horseshoe is 1 mil, which means that from corner to corner is going to be 2 mils. The ranging brackets out to the right are also spaced apart for mil references, and those are in half mil increments. Now when it comes to ranging the distance of different size game, there's a couple of different ways you can do it, and a couple of different ways that you'll have to interpolate data. So I'm going to try to make this very simple to understand at first, and then once we get to the examples, I think it will make a lot more sense. Now the first way to use the ranging brackets is using the 18-inch reference. So that's just going from the bottom of the ranging bracket to the top of the ranging bracket is going to range anything that's 18 inches. So one quick example would be on a white-tailed deer, the average distance from its belly to its backbone is roughly 18 inches. So if the line by the 3 was the same measurement between a white-tail's belly and backbone, then you know that that white-tailed deer is 300 yards away. I will go over some other animals and other examples a little bit later in the video, but first I want to talk about the second way to range animals, which is using a 22-inch reference. So instead of using the bottom of the bracket, you're going to go down to the top of the numbers. So using the top of the bracket to the top of the numbers underneath is going to be a 22-inch reference. And for 200 yards, it will be the top of the horseshoe to your 400-yard holdover. A quick example of that would be, say, a mule deer, which is something popular here in Idaho. They're a little bit bigger than your typical white-tailed deer, so you would want to range in the same way using the 22-inch reference. And then finally, we have to talk about the different calibers and loads that this reticle is designed for, but not necessarily limited to. So I'll throw up a graphic here so that way I don't have to ramble off the different loads. But you guys will see that this reticle is designed around some certain 308 and 30-06 rounds, as well as some 223 rounds. Now, that doesn't necessarily limit this reticle to just those loads. There's actually a lot of other loads that match up with very similar trajectories to these. So I was just playing around on my ballistic calculator to see if any 270 Winchester loads would be close to any of these, and with a little bit of trial and error, I did find some loads that I would consider close enough for a responsible kill. Now going into some of the examples on how to use this reticle to get you guys a little bit more comfortable. We already talked about using the 18-inch ranging brackets on a whitetail, but you can also use it for something like a coyote, where the back of the coyote to the ground is also roughly 18 inches. So in this example, we will hover the ranging brackets over the coyote using the 18-inch reference, and you guys will see right here that from the back of the coyote to the floor is lining up next to the 4. So that lets us know that the coyote is 400 yards away. Now that we know the distance, we're able to use the bullet drop compensator to compensate for that shot. That way we don't have to mess with our turrets and dial it in, and we don't have to do any math. We simply use the 400-yard holdover, and if there's no wind, we're going to hold it right in dead center. And say we had a left to right 5-mile-an-hour wind, then we would use the right 5-mile-an-hour hold on the 400-yard holdover right in the kill zone. Now in this example, we're going to use a mule deer using the 22-inch reference marks on the ranging brackets. So we hover our reticle over the mule deer, and we see that from the belly to its backbone matches up with the bracket by the 5, meaning the top of the bracket to the top of the 5 lines up with the mule deer. That will let us know that the mule deer is 500 yards away. Again, we would use the 500-yard bullet drop compensator, and say we had a 10-mile-an-hour right to left wind, we would use the 10-mile-an-hour dot on the left side of the reticle at the 500-yard holdover, and we would place that right over the kill zone, and you'd be good to go. So I'm sure you guys can see from those examples that this reticle is just super easy to use. And really, the possibilities as to what game you can use this reticle on are almost limitless. If you just do a little bit of research to figure out some average measurements on whatever game you're going after, you can interpolate those numbers to make this reticle work for you. So I'll give you guys a really simple example of that. So say I wanted to go hunting for a velociraptor. And I say, well, how can I use this reticle to range a velociraptor? Well, I go online, and obviously I'm working with either an 18-inch reference or a 22-inch reference. I can find a certain part of a velociraptor's body where the average size is roughly 18 or 22 inches, then I can use this ranging bracket. So say, for example, the average distance between a velociraptor's neck to his shoulders was 18 inches. Then I have a referencing point to use my ranging bracket to range that velociraptor. So I know that sounds silly, but that's kind of how it works. So that about wraps up the ACSS Orion tutorial. I will get around to doing a full review on this 4-14 by 44 ACSS Orion that Primary Arms has sent to test out. I have a video up reviewing the 4-14 by 44 HUD DMR. However, these are a little bit different. They're pretty similar, but there are some big differences. Some of them are like this has capped turrets and there is no illumination. So I will get around to that, and I just want to get this video out for those of you guys interested in what reticles I would use. Obviously, I haven't used this hunting, so I can't tell you how good it works, but I do know that math doesn't lie, and I honestly think this would be a pretty good choice to take out. And just to be fair, I am going to bring this scope out on this rifle on my first hunting trip. Whether I get something or not isn't going to be at the fault of this scope. It's going to be either me or the fact that I can't find anything. But I will take this package out to see how it performs, because I'm really curious. So this is just my cheap Remington 700 ADL. If you guys haven't seen my extreme budget long range rifle setup videos, this is the rifle in that, but I did buy it for the purpose of using it for hunting. It's clearly a sporter profiled barrel. It's lightweight. It was really cheap. It's the kind of rifle that I really don't care about banging up, and I happened to get this rifle before Primary Arms sent this scope out. But this rifle is chambered in 30-06, so it will actually line up with this scope perfectly. And I think 30-06 is just an awesome round. I know it's similar to 308, but you can get it to be a little bit hotter, and I don't know, there's just something about 30-06 that's still pretty cool. So anyways, I feel like I'm just rambling now. I'm sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got something out of it. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. You guys seriously rock. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time.